Secretary General, thank you very much for joining us. I'm currently in Beirut in the Middle East, and as you know, the situation here is basically out of control. I've been speaking to Lebanese ministers who say it's not on the brink of war. We are now in an all-out war. What does all this, do you think, mean for NATO?
So we are deeply concerned, and we follow the situation very closely. And of course, it's heartbreaking to see the human suffering. At the same time, I think it's important to realize that NATO is the answer to many problems in the world, but NATO is not the answer to every problem. And NATO as an organization is not playing an active role in the Middle East conflict. But of course, we welcome and support the efforts of NATO allies, the United States, United Kingdom and others to try to de-escalate and find a peaceful way forward.
Secretary General, Ukraine has largely united the West, and frankly, the Middle East has divided the West. I guess the question to NATO is, what military lessons have you learned from the situation here in the Middle East?
So our military plans are, of course, always studying every military conflict of any significance in the world, also, of course, in the Middle East. But it's too early for me to draw any conclusions on the military lessons learned. But again, what we support and what is important for NATO allies is that even though NATO as an alliance is not playing an active role in the process, all allies support the efforts to find a negotiated solution. Allies support a two-state solution, ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. And are concerned about the escalation in the region, including in Lebanon. So I think that's the message from NATO allies today, not the more military lessons learned. That can be something we can study later.
Secretary General, I want to talk about the war in Ukraine. How does it now end?
Well, of course, the quickest way to end the war is to lose a war. But that will not bring a peace. That will bring occupation of Ukraine. And that will make the world even more dangerous, because then the message to President Putin is that when he invades another country, then he gets what he wants. So what we need is to change the thinking in Moscow. I don't believe that we can change President Putin's mind, but we can change his calculus. So if the price he has to pay on the battlefield is too high, then he may be willing to sit down and agree a solution where Ukraine prevails as a sovereign independent nation. And to get there, we need military support to Ukraine, because that's the only way to convince President Putin that they will not win on the battlefield.
Secretary General, we spoke when the fall of Afghanistan was taking place. At one point, the greatest military alliance on the planet was in that country. America then abandoned Afghanistan, and NATO went with them. If America abandons Ukraine, will NATO go? What will NATO do?
First of all, I think these are two very different challenges or conflicts. Second, it has been stated clearly from NATO allies on both sides of the Atlantic again and again that we will stand by Ukraine. I will meet President Zelensky later on today. And the message is, of course, that if President Putin wins in Ukraine, it is a tragedy for the Ukrainians, but also dangerous for us. And that's the reason why the United Kingdom, all the NATO allies, the United States, continue to provide unprecedented military support to Ukraine.
Secretary General, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.